again, I think I told you this. I was talking to my family, and I wrote out this whole thing of like, it's like, this whole progression of like, a child is born, first 5 years, life is basically fantastic. I mean, for most kids,
Kids are way more likely to actually interact with that
for
side
sure.
of it.
Well, that's what, that's part of Nevuah also, but I was just gonna say, like, first 5 years, and then you go, and then you start going to like school, first grade, you're 6 years old, 7 years old, and all of a sudden there's like stuff that's like thrown at you, and it's not even, a lot of it is, they say that the reason given is that we want to develop this child's mind, or we want to develop them socially and this and that and the other, but a lot of it is not that positive. A lot of it is very it's a toxic environment from the time you're like 7 years old until you're 18 years old, maybe even through college. You're just existing to avoid toxicity in your day-to-day life, namely school. It's just, I mean, I don't know about anybody else. This is how I experienced it. You know what I'm saying? You probably experienced it on some level also.
I hated school so much.
But I didn't hate school. I didn't hate the academic aspect. What I try to convey to people is that I actually wanted the academic aspect. I just didn't want, my father could never relate to me because he went to school, the school that he went to in Ukraine, in Lvov, right? It was a former actually Jewish school turned into a math magnet school. So it was a bunch of really, really smart guys, most of whom were Jewish. They were all friends. They were in school together for like years and years, the same guys, literally, with some variation of different guys coming through. And he loved it because he thrived, because he loved the academic aspect, because he loved the social aspect. By me, I couldn't even focus on the academic aspect as much as I liked the academic aspect, because the social aspect was horrible. Like, I didn't even want to physically be in the building. I was like, you know what? I kept telling, I remember talking to my parents, I was like, I want to learn all this stuff. I just don't want to learn it in that building. Let me learn it independently. I don't know. At the time, there was no internet. The internet just came out.
That's exactly what I hated about school. Exactly what you just described. When I went to yeshiva around the 10th grade, I was before I went, I was excited that yeshiva would be this academy where I can finally use my intellect, and it was not.
BS.
You know what I mean? Like some parts of the Torah learning, before the English studies were okay. It was not at all what I had thought.
Yeah. And you could say, well, school is designed to be that way because it's preparing you for the world, but the world is like that because of the schools.
Yeah,
the world is just a continuation of the schools.
Right. No, I mean, I think
with money.
I think that it's the Sitra Achra system that we talked about before, where the Sitra Achra needs you to, it needs your mind as limited as possible. It needs your thoughts, your creativity stifled, closed off. It needs you to be scared to dream, to think, to be able to think freely and creatively, to kind of like be able to kind of exist in your own reverie, your mental reverie, and kind of be aware of these kind of things.
Can I tell?
And even if you're aware of it, it teaches you to dismiss it.
Yeah.
Because you can't really do anything.
Yeah, you can't apply it. They're like, oh, this is nice, but what are you going to do with that? I'm like, I don't know, but if I was on a different planet, I would do something with it. Not on this planet.
Right. So basically, the Sitra Achra confines your mind and keeps you confined mentally in some kind of like busy work crap, right? Throughout the course of the day. So there's going to be a point where you can't take it anymore. There's a point during the day when you can't take it anymore, where you're tired, you're upset, and your mind is begging to be somehow released in some kind of, I don't know, some kind of right brain flow, some kind of creativity, right? Something. And so that's a vulnerable state, because whatever you decide to hook into now it's gonna just take off in that direction. It's very difficult to change directions. So when people, what do people choose to do? Most of the time, it's not good. What do they choose to engage their mind in? Most of the time, it's not good. It's the things that are easiest to escape into.
Yeah.
Entertainment of various types. And it's the entertainment that leads to you're too tired to learn or to enrich your mind in some way. You just want to turn on the TV, right? And and worse, you could end up just kind of getting lost into some kind of like show, like some kind of, your whole life now becomes finishing X-Files or Stranger Things, or even worse, you turn to porn.
Yeah.
So I think, and I believe that's the point of the Sitra Achra. It's to stifle your mind and most of the day, and then give it a little room to squeeze through at some point in the day when you're too tired to think straight. And that's a carefully crafted system.
For sure. I mean, it's something that came out of the, out of the Industrial Revolution. It's funny because Gary Vee talks about how it's created to, it's made to produce employees and not entrepreneurs. And I would say that's a simple view of it. It's made to produce people who are just compliers. They comply, ultimately. Even if you know something is wrong.
The school system was specifically crafted to create mediocre intellects.
Yeah.
It's not to cultivate the human. Every human being has something tremendous that they have a potential. But so the point of school and system is to stifle that, to make sure it never comes out.
What was I gonna say? I forgot. I don't know if I ever told you this. Like, I remember there was a moment, because I was always in advanced math, right? So I remember it was like, this is like advanced calculus, AB Calc, senior of high school, and whatever. I was just one of these guys. I didn't feel the need to, sit there and like remember formulas, right? So I wasn't like the A students class, and people, like some of these my friends knew that, people in the class knew that. I remember there was like one assignment that we got. It was like one of these extra credit things where I think it had something to do with like irregular, you had to find the volume of an irregular shape and using integrals or some kind of thing, whatever it is. And out of 30 people in the class, I was one of 5 who figured it out. Oh, it had to do with integrals and then a combination of, when you look, I don't know if you ever learned about this, the infinity representation of infinity. But representation of infinity, how do you use that in a calculation? It's either 0.0000, like a lot of zeros and a 1.
Okay.
Or 1 with a ton of zeros after it. It can't be infinity because we don't know what that is, right? We can't plug that into a calculator. So I just remember like most of the class didn't understand that concept. They couldn't wrap their head around the abstract concept of, well, you're talking to us about infinity, but why are you representing infinity? They couldn't understand why the teacher, or why calculus represents infinity, or math represents infinity as a ton of zeros, or like, let's say 10 zeros with a 1 after it, or one and a bunch of zeros after it. And I automatically understood that like there's infinity, but there's our attempt to represent it in math. We can't represent infinity because we can't grasp that. I intrinsically understood that. Yeah, and that's why I was able to do the problem, right? Just because I was born understanding that.
I was one of the people who had trouble understanding it, and I realized why.
No, can I just finish and then get this? So at the end, I remember this one kid, Jewish kid, actually. He's like, dude, you have like a B- average in class. How did you get this right? And I didn't even have the language to express to him that, like, well, because I know how to think in the abstract and you don't. And I was never taught. I was just born that way. You were saying, I'm sorry.
Or maybe you're just kind of like a prick.
No, I'm not. I know I didn't say anything to him. I didn't even know what to say. I was just like, well, I just get it.
I think, yeah. So that's
This particular thing.
that's the view that people have about people who are just good at math.
Yeah.
But that is part of the Sitra Achra.
He was in the A. He was an A student, by the way.
I'm not talking about forget about student and forget about like grades. I'm just talking about, can someone do math or not?
Yeah.
The truth is everyone can.
Yeah.
And it's actually, if you learn the step-by-step process, and if it's explained to you in a way that's meant for you to understand, then you can understand it. But the system is set up where most people will not be able to grasp it. There's a moment here and there that some people, for whatever reason, because their parents, they had a conversation, they ran into a concept somewhere along the line where that caused them to be able to think in the abstract, where most people actually never got a chance to do that. Okay. So talking with your father taught you how to think about abstract concepts. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's say you wanted to teach, let's say you're the teacher, you wanted to teach your that buddy of yours or whatever. So basically all you have to say is like this infinity idea represents not true infinity, but the fact that the space between these 2 points can be divided into infinite points. There's a potential for infinity to be measured between these 2 points. There's a potential for it. The more you can continually break this line into points for infinity. And this idea represents the potential for that. It's very simple. They would get it. Sure. I don't think the intention was for most people to get it.
The very, very nice Jewish math teacher in my public school, very nice lady, just did not maybe herself know that, or know how to maybe explain that.
Or
she just said this is how infinity is represented, and don't like, this is just how it is, i.e. don't question it. You know what I'm saying?
No, because you know what it is. I noticed that there's people who were talented in math naturally, because like you, somebody opened their mind at the right time, not with math, but just with the ability to think abstractly. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they noticed that they were different, and they felt that they had an upper hand in some way through life over their fellow students, and they wanted to maintain it. So then there's this priesthood that develops, in science and in math, where it's like, oh, you made it too? Okay, so you're one of us. We left those other people behind. Okay, so you start to think that there's something special about you, when in reality that is not true. You were given a perspective that other people didn't have the opportunity to. If they had that ability, if they had that opportunity, there's a very strong chance that you have many more people who could do high math. And I was always horrible at math. I never had any confidence, and I forced myself to kind of taught it to myself. I'm still kind of teaching it to myself. And I realized, like, holy crap, like I can teach this to myself.
Yeah.
And actually every person that ever supposedly tried to teach me math was stifling me further, or pushing me further into the pit of never understanding math. Okay. And honestly, with any knowledge that I have, the only things that I've ever retained or was able to really understand was what I learned on my own. Okay. Especially with Torah.
Yeah. Same.
But I remember feeling, like kind of worthless in a certain way, because, I thought I couldn't do math. And then I realized this is a scam. I really could have done this had a couple of little things been pointed out to me that were so simple.
Can I tell you the history of my math journey in life?
Sure.
Both of my parents are applied math, graduates.
So it's likely you bumped into a couple of these concepts in the home.
No, so listen. Well, let me describe to you. In the words of who's the guy, the little character from Team America War, Tim Robbins from Team America War Police. Let me explain to you how this works. So I used to come home with homework, and let's say there's a concept that I couldn't. Usually, it wasn't a concept that I couldn't get. Usually, it was that our math teachers wanted us, in this America, wonderful country, wanted us to show the work. They wanted us to show the work. So I used to come home, and I used to come, so I asked my mother, because my mother's a math person. I'm like, can you explain how to do this? Or can you show me how to do this faster, better? She's like, yeah, I don't understand why they want you to do it like this. There's better way, there's shortcut, there's this. I'm like, no, they don't. No, so she helped me do it like that. That was the first time. This is like, we're talking second grade, third grade, or something like that. No, I'm sorry, fourth grade, fifth grade. So I would show the teacher, I did the homework. They're like, no, who told you to do it like this? And she's like, this is not right. I want you to show the work. I'm like, my mother told me. I was like, was your mother a teacher? I'm like, she's a math person. So every year from when I can remember to basically the end of high school, my mother went to war with the math teacher. Like Rome Total War. Remember that game?
Yeah.
Rome Total War with phalanxes. And she would come in, you're going to tell me how to do this? I remember there was one person that could rival my mother. It was this very, very nice, but very tough Persian Jewish lady. This was in junior year. I was in trigonometry, advanced trig. This Persian Jewish, and she's like, but I taught him how to, the very nice boy. I taught him how to do it like this, and you have to, I know this way too, because I learned it here. I know what you're trying to do, but I want to do this because I want this, the reason for this. They went at it. They just went at it. And then I'm just like, I realize I'm like, yeah, they have a protocol. My mother showed me how to use my mind, and these people show protocol.
Yeah, they're trying to
understand the protocol. This is why I hated math. I didn't hate math. I hated the process of what they were the way they were trying to make me do the damn math, which actually screwed me up or at least my mind, not other kids maybe, but it screwed me up for the SATs and all these other things, AP exams, because it was just like it made me not want to do any of this stuff because there was
what it's like what you're describing. Oh. Imagine you want to join the track team because you're really fast, right?
Yeah.
And then so the coach, he says, all right, so let's see you run this, right? And right away you beat the school record, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying, oh man, cool, we'll keep doing whatever you're doing, it's working for you. Yeah. He's like, no, your technique is off. Here's what you have to do. And then when you do his technique, then you can't run as fast as you did.
You can't even when you do his technique, you end up falling on your ass and crawling.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
And then you say, well, why can't I've been trying your technique and it doesn't seem to be working. Well, you're not doing it right, and you got to practice more. So and then after a while, you're wondering, is this guy trying to stifle me?
Yeah.
And the answer is
they're clipping my wings.
So the answer is yes, but in reality, I mean that's the metaphor. But in reality, I don't think the teachers are conscious of that entirely. I just think that, this is a very carefully crafted system by higher intelligences.
Yeah.
Okay? We talk about them. Listen, if you are a believer in Torah, if you believe what the Torah says, Torah says we have, it's written in the text, and also we receive in our tradition that there are higher intelligences, that there's like a hierarchy in terms of how this world functions. Okay, and they're involved greatly in everything. Okay, so especially the structure of society. Okay, and so somehow this situation that we're in is similar to the Tower of Babel. Because remember, they achieved tremendous things, right? That generation. They found the technology, they built a city, they built a tower. Actually, some say they built many cities and many towers. Okay, that why? What was that for? It said. So, and then what happened? It said that they confused their minds and they couldn't understand each other anymore, right? What is that? God sent the angels to stifle them. So in that case, it was for a good reason, because they were trying to do something bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so who's to say it's still not happening?
Yeah.
Like, who's to say that that was a one-time event? Who's to say that that's not the case since that time? That there is this system in the world that is meant to kind of keep us down, perhaps until a time when we're not going to immediately do something evil when our minds are released from their chains, and where we can actually, use our real powers. You know what I mean? Like the handicap is removed from us.
Yeah.
And then we can use it. It's hard to know.
Sometimes I wonder, maybe it's an excuse and this, because other kids also were in that system, but they thrived and whatever, or they just kind of got over it and, they sucked it up and they did what they had to do.
There's no.
But like
that's bullshit.
But I
know it is.
I couldn't.
I know it's bullshit.
I couldn't.
Because there's always a balance. Okay? The kid who's good at math is seriously lacking in other ways. The kid who's good in other ways is seriously lacking. There's always.
But that's not what I mean. I mean, like, there were kids in my class who also felt the same way as I did, but they still did what they had to do. They had the fortitude to do what you have to do, so to speak.
So the fortitude.
And I didn't.
Okay, so here's what fortitude is. Okay? Accepting mediocrity. Okay? It's kind of like taking the vax. Why didn't some people take the vax? Why did some people take the vax? Because they're like, all right, we got to get on with life. I got to get to work. I got to take the vax.
Yeah.
It's similar. It's connected.
Yeah.
These two notions, because they decided that, okay, I'm gonna let them rape my mind with this stifling nonsense when I can do these math problems in my head and automatically.
Yeah.
They want me to use this cumbersome technique, to show my work when I'm already light years ahead of that. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to keep making that decision to do that. And each step along the way, my mind gets further and further imprisoned. So that's why you couldn't. Now, this is something that you couldn't articulate when you were a kid, but that was holding you back from making that decision. And I have my own version of that too.
Listen, but you could say I knew people that, just knew that this system, they themselves knew that the system is, I know a person who actually is a applied math professor in universities. And at that time, he also knew that the system was flawed, but he was like, let me just get through this. And then so I can get to university. And then there I will, so to speak, spread my dreams.
It doesn't work like that.
He was willing to eat the crap, it's kind of like when you have your business, you're willing to eat.
But every time you
SHIT to get to the,
No, but every time you eat the crap, you poison yourself a little. The crap does not, you can't just expel the crap. You eat it during the day and then you could vomit it up at night. That's not going to happen.
I don't know.
That's what happens. See, when people make that decision, they get momentary success. Okay, but their mind is now weakened. And so a series of decisions are made throughout the course of their lives, each one weakening their mind. Making poor. Okay, so you can see a person who ends up in a high position, apparently, in some kind of bureaucratic
Can I call you? I'll cut you off for a second. This same guy, by the way, he took the schmacks, but he's against mandates. He was like a normal, like right-wing guy, but he took the stuff. And
Okay, so not everybody, drinks the same amount of poison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it depends where you start from. I'm not saying it's exactly the same for everybody, but the point is that some people intuitively understand that this is schmacks. That I'm not talking about just the schmacks that we know right now.
Yeah.
Everything. Every time throughout your life, when your mind, like somebody offered you to stifle your mind for to push you forward in the system, right? Like they offer you a cushy position in the system if you just let us shove this crap in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you shove this crap in your mind, then we can control you.
Yeah.
Okay? You're going to be unhappy. Your mind is going to feel dull. It's not going to make sense. You're going to just take it. You're going to swallow it. And then, okay, so you get a good grade. There's a promise of, maybe, you'll get into a good school. And then, there's another promise later. Maybe you'll get a good job where you won't have to, wonder where your paycheck is coming from, even though that's a lie.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's this, this promise that children are made saying that if you do this and do that, and you're going to get a nice, comfortable, there's going to be job security, and you're not going to be, that's BS. It was BS it was a lie. Okay. They don't tell you, look, you're never going to know, it's never going to be clear how you're going to make money. No job is secure. Okay. You can open your own business and you may succeed, you may not. You can try to work for somebody else. You may succeed, you may not. So that is a more realistic, that's the truth. That's actual life, right? So if they told kids that and they wouldn't sell them this lie, I believe more kids, when faced with that chaos, would come to God. And that's the right way to go.
As opposed to let me just enter this academic competition sponsored by this giant corporation and get prestige and I always wondered. I remember when I was like senior year, or even when I got to college, and I kept hearing this phrase, like, this is what the companies are looking for these days. This is what the colleges are looking for right now on your application.
Yeah.
This is what Wall Street is looking for from people who go get degrees at this school. Let's read U.S. News and World Report at the rankings of the thing and what people are majoring, and then where do they go after this thing that they majored, and over there, what's the plug that fits into this wall socket? What is the thing that you need to go and pay $250,000 in the thing to stick that into the thing so that to get coins that fall out of this slot machine called BlackRock or whatever? What do you need to do? And I was just like, what are we doing here? What is this? Where am I? I remember when the whole application process, the colleges started, junior year, high school, senior year, there was this, this kind of buzz. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's like
where are we going? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Nobody fucking knows. Pardon my language.
Also, they don't tell you the truth. Like, you think like, all right, they tell you, okay, so maybe if they told you the truth from the beginning, be like,
the first 2 years of college, you're not doing
like,
a major. You're doing a repeat of high school.
No, I know that, but let's say they told you the truth, like since you're a kid. They're like, look, you're tall and handsome. You're more likely to get a high-paying job than people who have the same skills that you do. That's just human nature. That's the way things are. So you guys should try to be as tall, as handsome as you can. Okay, do what you got to do. Stretch your bones, but that would be closer to the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. the truth is not told to people. A lie is sold to them since childhood. And, because let's say, you're a kid, you do, you believe what they say, and you do your homework, and you think that you can just kind of make it somewhere based on on your mind and your knowledge and what you've done. And then you realize, wait, in reality, it's not like that at all. You're going to see people passing you who they have qualities, natural qualities that you are not told you needed to have, that you really can't have. Like you can't change your bone length. You can't change what people do stuff like that. They'll get whatever surgeries are necessary to kind of match up as closely as they can to some kind of ideal. Where does this ideal come from? Who's determining this? That's what I'm saying. It's a Sitra Achra. I'm serious. I'm not. This is a carefully crafted system to stifle the human spirit, stifle the mind, to get people to waste their time on things that they're not, to not cultivate their natural gifts, to spend time worried about things that don't really matter, just to kind of get into some kind of false oasis, like a mirage of job security and happiness. Okay, so I wish that instead of being mad, or instead of like feeling sorry for myself when I was a kid, I wish that I would have known that I actually can indeed do math, and I could have taught myself math. And in fact, going to school was a waste of time, absolutely, where my mind was being harmed. I could have achieved much greater things, math related, had I just been left to my own devices. Do you understand how that's a maddening reality to be faced with?
For sure.
Everybody is faced with it. Everybody is. They just don't realize it.